hammer with a piece of 25mm heavy wall.
Just like making all the other blanks, we want to do a round bottom and then blow a little hole, attach your blow tube, and then that'll give you a nice blank for your stem of your bubbler.
As you usually do, you're going to attach one blank and then close the other end, attach another, and then you'll make two blanks for yourself rather than one. Nice because you don't waste any pieces of tubing that way.
Exactly. So what you want to do is use your V-blade, and that'll create a nice break and hole, and it'll allow me to have a nice section for the next time that I want to make a blank.
And now you have the blank ready for the stem of your bubbler. So you punnied up here, and now you're going to shape the stem.
Yeah, it's a lot like shaping the spoon. First I'm going to heat the center, but I want the mouthpiece to be a little bit more narrow than the bowl piece, so I'm going to apply a little more heat to the bottom, and that's going to allow a nice taper towards the mouthpiece.
And you see you want a little bit more heat, so you go back in and brush it with a brushy flame to pull it down to the amount you want.
Obviously you guys can use a lot of the other techniques that we've showed you to make full colored ones and worked ones, but we just want to go over the shaping of a hammer bubbler today. Once I attach my blow tube, I heat up the bottom and make it a little Maria, and that'll have a nice thick point for your mouthpiece.
Once you make your Maria, you go in with a more precise flame and condense the tubing down just past the Maria slightly, and that's where you'll be taking off your blow tube at the very end once your bubbler's finished.
Yeah, there's going to be about a 5 to 7mm hole there, and that'll be the great detach point for the end of the piece.
Once that end cools enough, you can go in, take your punny off, and start to shape the other end.
So you just heat it up, and I'm going to make sure that I take off just a little bit of glass here because I want to make sure it's proportionally correct. I really like to have a big can and a smaller stem, but that's just my personal style, and you guys should feel free to do whatever you like with it. So I just took off a little bit of the glass, and now I'm going to blow up a bubble just like I would for the end of a spoon, only small.
It's really similar to the shaping for the wigwag spoon before you put the wigwag on. Now you'll start to condense it down and thicken up the walls a little bit.
Just blowing it out just like I would a spoon, so I'm keeping it kind of in the middle of my flame, what's called the working flame, kind of towards the edge there, so it's a fluffy heat, which is going to create a nice, even, round sphere.
And now you can go in and open up a hole.
Just heating it up, blowing it, and I'm going to try to remember what size I make it, and I'm going to make my bubbler can the same size for the attachment.
So you're using first one blade of your jacks to open up the hole, and then you'll trim the lip to even it out before you give it a final shaping.
So I just finish it up with my jacks, make sure it's all even, and it'll be ready to connect to my can.
You just gave it a slight blow there to get any beeswax or other debris out before you put it in your kiln. Now you're using a piece of 38mm heavy wall for the can of your bubbler.
This tubing will feel different in your hand. It'll feel bigger and a little bit more difficult to control, but it's good to practice with, and it's also really good to use larger size tubing on your can than on your stem. Another tool that you can use are called rollers, and that'll help people who are having a hard time with larger size tubing.
So you're just opening up a hole in the end here, and you're just going to make a blank like you did earlier.
Flaring out my blow tube, and I'm going to connect them.
Once your connection is cool, you're going to go in and take off a little bit of the tubing because, as you mentioned earlier, it is all about having things in proportion to each other. So now you're going to go in and heat up a larger portion of the end of your blank, and this will be the bottom of your bubbler can.
So what we're doing here is we're just blowing a big bubble, and so I'm keeping it a little bit further away from the candles, and that's going to allow a nice even heat. I'll go in and marver it once, and that'll even out the wall thickness. Go back in, condense it down, and blow a nice big bubble, and that'll be the bottom of my can.
And you want to make sure your heat is very even because that will be conducive to blowing an even bubble.
Yeah, one way to help with that is wait a second before you blow. Don't take it right out of the flame and blow. Wait a few seconds, and that way the radiant heat along the whole thing helps even it out if you had any uneven heating spots, and that'll allow you for a more even blow.
Once you have your bubble, you're going to tilt it downwards a little bit and get that kind of more squat shape.
Yeah, oftentimes glass blowers refer to the direction as elbow up or elbow down. So we would put our elbow down and we'd allow the bubble to squat down on itself, and that'll make a nice shape for the bottom of a bubbler. That's the kind of shape for a bubbler that I like, but there's all different kinds of shapes that work well.
And then you can go in